If you're new to teaching your child to read, it can feel like a huge undertaking, knowing where to start, what method to use. How do I make sure they don't end up with some bad reading habit? In today's video, I want to make it super simple and easy to understand. So simple that you can have your child reading in the next 3 days. Not only is it the simplest way to learn to read, but it follows the science of reading research, which has studied in depth about how the brain actually learns to read best. So if that sounds good to you, let's go. Hi, my name is Danae Yaboa, reading specialist and creator of Reading Rescue Blueprint, a fully digital program that gives you everything you need to teach your child to read. Step-by-step video lessons, fully scripted phonemic awareness games, application activities, and so much more, so that you can teach your child to read without knowing how to teach your child to read. I'll leave a link for it in the description below. Let's dive into the 3-day method for teaching your child to read. Day 1. Ideally, at this point, you've got a child who is interested in books generally, is able to repeat sounds after you fairly accurately, and is able to follow along with a story when you're reading it to them. If your child meets these 3 pre-reading skills, they are in a good spot to start the learn to read process. So on day 1, we're going to choose 2 letters to introduce them to, a vowel and a consonant, ideally ones that can be held out for a long period of time. So for today's example, let's start with the vowel A, which we can hold out as ah, and let's say the consonant L, which can be held out again, l. So throughout day 1, try to find as many ways to practice these sounds as you can. Point them out at breakfast table. Hey, look, there's an A on this box. What does an A sound like again? Ah. And oh, we're driving. Oh, look on that sign. There's the letter L. What sound does that make again? L. Just find ways to practice this throughout the day. If you find you don't have a lot of letters in your environment, then just keep them in your pocket throughout the day and just use flashcards. Hey, what's this letter again? Ah. Just by the end of the day 1, you want them to have these sounds nailed down. Day 2. On day 2, you're going to be working on blending by ear. And we are going to practice this skill without actually looking at any letters, aside from maybe reviewing the ones that you took upon yourself to teach yesterday. I know this sounds weird because it feels weird that in a 3-day method of reading, you're not actually going to spend a whole day looking at words. But this skill is so crucially important for the learn to read process. You're basically going to give your child sound puzzles throughout the day to get their brains to start putting those pieces together. So maybe at breakfast, you're going to offer them, hey, would you like some egg? Or would you like some oat? Now, don't start with 7 sound options like pancakes on the first time that you're going to do this, but maybe ask them to put their oat on, or maybe get their oot. Just 2 or 3 sound words that just kind of get them in that habit of putting those sounds back together. And the more sound puzzles you can give them throughout the day, the more prepared they will be for day number 3. Day number 3 is blending visually. So yes, we are going to look at the word again in order to put those 2 skills that we've learned so far together. So taking those sounds we know of the letters and putting it with our auditory blending skills. So today you're going to take these letters, you're going to put a dot under each one. You can do this on a whiteboard or a piece of paper, and you're going to review those 2 sounds separately first of all. Ah. So you're going to take your finger and you are going to put them under the letter and you're going to start sliding it across. Now challenge your child to not change their sound until the second that you get right under that letter. It's going to be like a little game for them. So they're going to watch your fingers so carefully as you slide it across, and they're going to say ah, l, and they change it right when you get underneath. Practice this a few times and then have them take their finger and do this independently. So as they slide their finger along, they are watching so carefully to make sure they don't say that sound until right underneath that letter. Then once you feel like they have a handle on this, you can flip these 2 letters around, which is why we chose letters that can be held out for a long period of time to help with this blending process. So this time you might put your L over here, your A over here, put your dots below, review the sounds with them, and then take your finger and do the same thing. Challenge them. Don't change your sound until they get right underneath it. La. And have them blend continuously without that gap in the middle. And what do you know? Your child has just read their first 2 words. Now you're like, wait a minute, I thought we were actually going to be learning how to read real words in 3 days. But here's the thing, nonsense words are the best way for your child to build that muscle of reading a word right to the end of the word. So many times our brains are wired to just find shortcuts. And so kids get in this habit when they have a familiar word in front of them of just guessing the ending. So using nonsense words ensures that your child actually builds that muscle of always reading right to the end of the word. Because in a nonsense word, they have no idea what sound is coming next. So embrace this 2-sound nonsense word process. And as your child gets more sounds, they can just start adding those in. You can make different combinations and they don't have to be real words. So maybe the next sound that you introduce tomorrow is the sound And so maybe you'll take an M, you'll have reviewed the sound, you'll do some sound puzzles at home, and then maybe you're going to start combining new 2-sound words. And then when they're ready, when you really feel like they've got this blending thing down, you can stretch it out to the 3 sounds they now know in order to put those 3 sounds together with the exact same process. Now, my one caution to you when introducing new letter sounds is to make sure that you're teaching the letter sounds properly. Because a lot of times there's certain letters in the alphabet that we've just learned B says B. But the problem with that is that if we teach our child that sound for the letter B, what they're going to end up doing is when they go to sound out this 3-sound word, and B says ba, they're going to say maba, maba. And so knowing the sound b is so crucially important, and there's quite a few letters in the alphabet that we really need to get right when we're teaching. Now this is where Reading Rescue Blueprint comes in handy, because at this stage, when there's only 3 sounds, maybe up to 5 sounds, it's really easy to make different letter combinations. But once you get up to your child knowing 17, 18, 19 sounds, it becomes a lot more challenging to create words with just the sounds that they know. So in Reading Rescue Blueprint, we've already done that homework for you. We've created all of our phonemic awareness games and our reading passages with only letters that they've learned so far in the lesson. So if you want to keep the momentum going with this 3-day method, hop on over to readingrescueblueprint.com and get started on workout 1 with your child right away. And if today's video was helpful for you, these 2 buttons, like and subscribe, are so crucial for little channels like us to get YouTube to know that there's value here. So if you would consider pushing either one, I would be so grateful. And make sure you leave me any questions in the comments. And I will see you in the next video for more tips for your child to read, succeed, and totally flourish.